let's get into the overall review of Dark Season 3. We already did an episode review, each episode reviewed. Now we're gonna dig into the review of the whole season. What did we think of Season 3? Koen, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I will be. If I talk only about Season 3, I would say they should redo it. Honestly, that's maybe
Okay.
that's very harsh to say, maybe, but and I will tell you why. There were a lot of good scenes in it. The acting was still on a very high level. Marta became a little bit annoying for me because of the. She had a lot of moments like the girl from Twilight, like she was breathing really heavily.
Too much for you.
Yeah, that was a bit annoying, but that's not her acting necessarily. It's just the way she had to act. So, but the acting level overall is very high. Still, music was, I think, a little bit better Season 2 and 1, but still very good. There were some moments that they used certain songs that fitted very good.
I have to say, I was really impressed by the music in this season. Yeah,
No,
maybe more than with the other
is.
ones.
For me, because the story, in my opinion, was better than the other two, way better, in my opinion, and I will tell you why. So for me, yeah, I wish I was left yesterday very frustrated. I literally said to my girlfriend, "Oh, it was such a waste of time."
Really?
Yeah, I was really upset. Yeah, and I'm more relaxed now, but it's because there are a couple of things. The main factor for me why I didn't like the Season 3 that much, it's not bad, but the first two put the standards so ridiculously high, especially
True.
Season 1,
True.
and also first part of Season 2, the first 5 episodes at least. Those were above the 9, easily 9.5, and this went not lower than a 7, I think. So it was still good, but because we talked about it also, like they lost their way already themselves because they just did it way too long, and they wanted to do way too much, and they changed writers. We know that this is a couple that wrote this from start to finish. So then for me, if you know this was what you were gonna do, first of all, the ending was for me not satisfactory at all. Not because it wasn't good, but because it was. I expected something very different.
Yeah.
And I was still waiting on like a huge thing.
Yeah.
A lot of questions are not answered, which we'll talk about in a second after you finish your review and your score. But the main thing is the dialogues. For Season 1, there was a lot of debate between Ulrich and Charlotte. Between Hannah and Ulrich, between the kids, a lot of talking and a lot of monologues. And in this season, I felt that's why I was already started to frustrate because you don't know anything for a long time till the last 2-3 episodes, and they go. Jonas just goes, "Okay, I'm gonna talk to Eva now, which is Marta. Okay, she tells me this, I'm gonna do this." It was every time like 5 sentences or 2 sentences, well, not even 5. I think 2 sentences. And he goes already on its way. It was for me.
Maybe that has to some. I get into yours a bit right away. Maybe that has to some because I felt like maybe there was a bit too much in this season.
Yeah.
And by that, maybe they had to cut some dialogue and make this dialogue short because they have to fit so much in, which I have a bit doubt about, which I will talk about later. Maybe they wanted to fit in a bit too much, but continue. Maybe that's part of it.
If you already say this, then that makes perfect sense. They should have made 2 seasons then, or just a couple of more episodes. First of all, I never like shows with 8 episodes. I prefer if you put it, if you milk it out like Hollywood does now, but just make enough episodes for the story to really be told how it should.
Yeah, true. But I also doubt if everything that was now in this last episode season, if that needed to be in there. I think there were some story elements. I can already discuss just a bit with you what I also have in my review. One of the story elements that I felt like, okay, maybe you could have won some time there is, for example, old Tannhaus, the whole Tannhaus family. I think that was not super necessary to have in there. It didn't add much for me.
I didn't even realize it, so imagine now. It didn't add that much for me.
And there were a couple of more things now in retro perspective. Like when it all happened, I felt like, okay, it's super important, everything. But now when I look back at it, I feel like, okay, maybe there were some things or some...
They could have...
storylines that needed a bit less attention than that they gave. So you could give more attention to the main storyline and really build that one out a little bit more. So maybe this season was a bit too packed.
Yeah, but the strange thing also what my girlfriend said is like, okay, it's back maybe the season, but it still is slow in terms of it's not slow because there are a lot of things happening, but the same. She just says it now. It's too much in the season, but still you feel like nothing is happening because you still get every time no answers. So I felt the pace of you as a watcher understanding what's going on was really, really slow. Which is strange because it was. No, you don't agree?
No, I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I did think that everything pushes it, and then we get a bit into my main opinion on this series. And I have to say it changed a bit over the course of the week because I could let it sink in a bit. I think.
Okay, but first, before you start with what you think now, what did you think Sunday night?
Sunday night, I was also a bit frustrated and a bit let down because a bit like the things that you said, like come on, and but that's mainly, and that's maybe false going into this. That's mainly because of what I think should have happened, maybe, and what I think would have been better that happened. And I still have my doubts about some choices that are made in the story. But what I have to comment before I start the rest of my review, what I have to commend them for is that they came up with a story that makes sense. They made a choice. They made a choice that there's a third world. They made the choice that Tannhaus created this world. I'm not really agreeing with that, but that's the choice that they made, and everything they did work with the story they wanted to tell.
And then you have to give them huge credits where
exactly.
It's due, because I might not be a fan of the third season in the end, but to think of the story and make it work in their vision is very impressive.
That's what I mean. And what you talked about before about Lost, what went wrong with Lost is that they couldn't tie it all up. And these guys,
I don't think they even had an end for the last before the last season started.
Exactly, and that's what these guys did really good. They had an idea, they had a story, and everything they did. I think almost every scene was connected to that story, and it pushed it forward.
Exactly. Then it's just a discussion or taste, or I didn't like the way they reached it, and that's why maybe also what you said is that they put too much maybe in season 3.
Yeah, that's the criticism I have there where it comes to telling this story that they have chosen. I believe that it maybe would have profited a bit if they cut some storylines made a bit shorter, or cut it out and focus more on the main story. But that being said, I still think it's a great piece of filmmaking. This series, it's really craftsmanship.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, if you analyze all separate elements from acting to music, cinematography, storytelling, I think it's absolutely great and admirable what the showmakers pulled off.
Yeah, it's way higher quality in certain things even than the most famous American shows. That's very impressive for a German show, and also for a couple that did only 3 or 4 movies together. It's very impressive.
So it's easy to get very critical, of course, because you are.
That's also why I wanted to calm down a bit today. Like, I don't want to be like only hating or whatever, because there's no need. No,
because the story they wanted to tell, they told in a good way. But then some criticisms I have, or some expectations I might have had within the story, is that for me, this story was the story of a group of friends to start with. It was the group of friends being Jonas, Marta, Bartosz, Magnus and Franziska. They are the ones that the story started with. So for me, it would have made a bit more sense if throughout the season they would also be the most important characters of the show. Of course, the whole show revolves around Marta and Jonas, but at some point, Bartosz, Magnus, and Franziska get a little bit sidelined.
And you don't see where from when they were really good kids and curious and don't understand what they're going on, till they suddenly became the true followers of Adam.
No, but this is that's what I mean. They get a bit sidelined. They don't get so much motivations anymore. They're just these characters that are there, and there's much more emphasis in the story on characters like Noah, Charlotte, Elizabeth, and most of all, Claudia. And I personally liked the character of Claudia, but I didn't love her. I never did. And the fact that she is so critical to the whole plot is something I'm just not super enthusiastic about. She's basically just as important in the end as Martha and Jonas are in the story. And then I would have seen much rather Bartosz being the third critical character. That would have made more sense.
Also because her character is not lovable in any way. Actually, she was always not really lovable, Claudia.
No. Yeah. And in the end, she's the savior of them all, more or less.
Yeah.
And then Bartosz also had, I think, better motivations to get, for example, bitter and maybe turn into the main villain of the story, being Adam or being some other character. Because one, his mother died.
He always had that twist in him. Yeah,
exactly. His mother died. His father turned out to be a criminal, a murderer, and his best friend Jonas took off with his girlfriend Martha.
Yeah, no, there was so much reason for him to. He was the only one that had this plot twist in him. Yeah,
exactly. He had all the motivations and had a closer bond to Jonas and Martha than Claudia had. So I feel a bit like, why didn't they just stay with the main characters? That would have made more sense to me.
Yeah.
With staying with that group instead of all those side characters. I don't know. Maybe there's choices they made. Maybe it's because the older ones were better actors or were easier to tell storylines with. But
no, I think that the for me. I already was thinking for some time, like where suddenly is Stanhouse?
Yeah,
I didn't connect him at all with the older man, so that was my fault. But also, it wasn't him; it was like his grandfather or great grandfather, whatever. But for me, it was like, and then when he came back, and in the end, because I think they made a mistake in a story, personally. It's because they if you look at the last episode, it looks like actually the whole show is about the love and loss of his son, and he wants to get him back, and he will do everything possible, and then all of this stuff happens. But that's not what the show is about.
No.
So that makes then, if that's the end, and that's actually what why this all happened, it doesn't really.
No, but that's one of the things I also had a bit of a problem with. Like I said before in this episode review already, like you got the parallel universe theory, and I tried to, at some point I like writing and I like the time travel stories, and there was 1 year ago that I tried to also write a time travel story, and I know how complicated this stuff is. So that's
course.
That's why I admire these people very, very much. I also read into Schrödinger's cat experiment and blah blah. There's so much going on there, and everything is. But so you have this parallel universe theory that there are more universes, and I just hoped that they would more or less stick with it's just being there. So it didn't need a motivation. Like now they more or less created with Thanos being the creator, the god more or less of these two worlds. He created more or less these two worlds by a failed science experiment. Yeah. I would have found it personally much cooler if these worlds are just there, because there is a theory that is out there without any of our human interference being done. If it was just out there and they were playing around with these worlds, maybe a third world being there, but that one being controlled by Bartosz, for example, and have this war with Martha and Jonas teaming up against Bartosz, for example.
Yeah, and also when I liked a lot, it was I think episode 6 when they all gear up to put everybody in place. Episode 6, I think.
Yeah.
I was really thinking, okay, now it's gonna start. Now they're gonna show what they're gonna do, and then also there was a very anticlimax, like because how you explained it now to me. They explained it also then a little bit, but how you explained it to me, it was way more clear. When I saw it, I didn't fully got the gist of it, you know. No.
Nee, so that was that. But again, that is expectation. But I do feel like there's some things that I feel like that could have benefited the story. But it might be a lot connected to expectations, your personal expectations of what a great story is. And there might be a lot of people. There is probably a lot of people that says like, "Hey, Bas, what you are telling here and your way of telling it is super lame, and this is great." And that's everybody's opinion. And
I'm very curious. People that are watching this, please let us know what you guys think. Maybe you have a very different opinion. Because the strange thing is, it doesn't happen a lot to me. Like everybody has a different taste. My taste is not good, great, bad. It is whatever it is. But a lot of times I can relate, especially to the website like Rotten Tomatoes. When they have an opinion, it's very close to what I think in the end. A lot of times, not all the time, but when it's very when I watch a movie or a show and I'm very frustrated and upset with, or like all my expectations went through the roof or through the window, let's say like that.
Yeah.
And I watched Rotten Tomatoes and they were like 9.8 this season. I was like, how?
This season?
Yeah, I think. Let me double check it now because it was what I saw yesterday. I remember, but it was late, so
Yeah.
I had no alcohol, but still. 1 second, Dark. Oh, they don't have it. You cannot find it on maybe on the German version. No, it's strange. You type in Dark on Rotten Tomatoes, you can't see it immediately. 1 second. Season 3, Rotten Tomatoes. 9.8 audience score, 9.1.
But is that for the season or is it for the series?
No, for the season.
Yeah. Well, again, I have to say.
It's surprising to me.
Yeah, but I have to say, if you analyze all elements on itself, I think you have to say that it is a very well made season. That I might not agree with the direction they go, and that doesn't say anything about the craftsmanship that they put into this. Like I said, all the elements, the acting, the music, it has some great montages. But maybe there's some convenient writing. I agree with you. So maybe I also find the score a bit too high.
Yeah.
But the critics, of course, judge it on filmmaking aspects, and in that way, I can get it. But
I don't agree.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe how they make a show, it wasn't bad at all. So it was a very high level still, and the level didn't change from season 1 to season 2 to season 3.
No.
The montages were nice. Music was, in my opinion, a little bit less as the first two. It's just because maybe it has to do. Maybe it only has to do with my feelings. So, like, if I have a feeling of frustration and there is an epic scene, but I don't fully get into it anymore, and the song is good, then I don't go with the song. You know. So maybe it's just so you cannot judge it then from that perspective. But for me, the biggest problem was the script in terms of the monologues, the conversations between. They were cut, I think, way too short. At least they should have been twice as long at certain moments. So for me, the script was, in my opinion, even weak, to be honest. Like they made the story how they wanted to make, and all the pieces of the puzzle they fit. So that's very impressive. And then you can exactly what you said, which is wise. What you said, you can disagree or agree with the way you wanted it to end. That's of course always a different story. So you cannot judge that then, but you can say, okay, I didn't like it, fine. But the way they got there, I think it wasn't good storytelling, because I think they overspeeded it, and they even if you check it back now, all the pieces fit. I don't think the pieces were explained enough, in my opinion. Maybe that's the best critic I can give it.
Yeah, I do get your point, and I think some other choices could have been made. Not only saying that out of okay, maybe it's my expectation, but I think that there really could have been made some other choices that really would have been better. So there's some things in this story that I feel like, okay, that's just not so great. But I do find it commendable that the story that you chosen, that, like you said, all the pieces fit, and it's maybe not the best. I also missed some plot twists that I did have in season 2, some real shockers, like, oh wow. So that made got a bit the excitement, or how you say, the tension out of the season.
Because
for me.
Even the big ending, it wasn't exciting anymore, actually.
That was, I was a bit underwhelmed with that also, because we now have this this Tannenhouse being a god, creating the worlds where Adam and Eve are more or less. And
that means that maybe actually as a storyteller you failed maybe.
Yeah, I don't.
No, you don't want to take it that far, no?
No, I don't want to take it that far, because I do feel like there's a lot of examples of people that can't finish a story, and they finished the story, and only at itself that's already commendable, especially with a story like this. So to say they failed, I think would be too harsh.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it's too harsh. You're right. No,
they made choices, and I think it's important as a creator, as a writer. Once you make choices, stick with them, and they did it. And I think somewhere they could have made some other choices. So I think the score for me is also a bit too high. But I think overall, I think I would have to praise them for how they tied it up. It was not a complete failure, which we often see with last seasons. They did stick the landing, I think, though it's not maybe my landing. I think they did stick it.
That's a very good point when you say. For me, actually, if I relevated or relativated, when I say it in English, relativeren. If I put it in perspective, let's say it like this. My English is failing me now. I apologize. The thing is that what I get out of it actually is a lot of motivation to see more stuff from these two people.
Exactly.
And I hope they get even a bigger budget, maybe. Because not that the budget was a problem, I think, for them, but
that will happen now. This is such a huge show.
Of course.
Netflix will sign them for 8 more seasons of something.
Exactly. And what I hope is that. So actually, my disappointment and frustration, and even wanting to walk away from the TV and saying it's a waste of time, of course, exaggerated in that moment, but.
It's just
actually, I'm just come on, boys, Clausen. No, but actually, that is a compliment. That's how you should see it. Because you laid the bar so ridiculously high with the first 2 seasons. That it's almost impossible to finish the 3rd season in maybe your or my opinion in that way. But we're just 2 people. So if the audience that we see on the meters gets this high, they did a freaking good job,
I do get it. I still think it's a bit too high, but that's also maybe people also take in maybe the achievement of the first 2 seasons and the series as a whole, and then you have to say it's one of the best sci-fi series of the last 10 years. I don't know, 20 years.
Should we do this? Should we both do a score of this per season and then a score overall?
Let's first end this review of this season. So out of 5 stars, what do you give this season?
3
stars. I give out of 5 stars 3.5 stars to
you're
this
close
season.
to me, but you're a bit more maybe it also the last couple of days helped you.
I think so. I think actually so. If I would have given my points on Sunday or Monday, I think it would maybe be lower. But I got to appreciate it more over the days. So okay, that ends our review for now. We're gonna talk a bit more about Dark, but this ends the review of the Dark season 3. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this season and the series as a whole. And if you liked this video, share your appreciation with us by hitting the like button and please subscribing to the channel.